Hello listeners, just a quick reminder that this story is not my personal story. It is told through the perspective of the person whose story it is, so I hope you enjoy their true ghost story. If you've watched the other true stories on this channel, then you know me, you know my stories. I am the baby girl in the haunted trailer ghost stories. That story is told through the perspective of my mother. In the haunted house ghost stories, I am the mother, and the video is told through the perspective of me. If you haven't watched these videos on this channel, I suggest that you do, so you can understand me and my life being haunted. I will be referencing instances in those haunted videos, as well as people mentioned in them, so to avoid confusion, take some time to watch those first. These stories are true, as stated in their titles, and unfortunately, after moving to many different homes in my life, the hauntings never stopped. My family joked that the houses weren't haunted, but rather I am. At some point, it no longer became a joke. It became a fact that I couldn't run away from. After moving myself and my 2 daughters out of our haunted apartment, we found a new home that has remained ours for 14 years and counting. Fortunately, we haven't had any occurrences that require an immediate relocation. However, that isn't to say that supernatural things haven't happened to us in our current home. It was here that I realized every home I had ever lived in since I was born had paranormal activity, some worse than others, as you know. My current home was quiet for the first couple of years. I nor my daughters had experienced any bumps in the night, and for the first time in my life, I was finally at peace. That is, until my daughter's yoga ball began moving around her room. It was the same yoga ball that the child spirit haunting our apartment used to bounce on and move around. Now, to be clear, the ball wasn't simply being rolled by a draft or any other logical explanation. The ball would make its way out of my daughter's closed closet and into the center of her room, or all the way to the open bedroom door. My daughter loved her yoga ball, so rather than immediately getting rid of it, we chose to ignore its strange movement around her room. However, ignoring it did not last long. One day, I walked into my daughter's room to hang her clean clothes in her closet for her while she was at school. The sunlight was brightly shining through the French doors that led from her room to the backyard and reflected off the mirror of her sliding closet doors. It is from this light that I noticed a strange handprint embedded in the dust on the mirror. The handprint was not like a normal one that I nor my daughter could have created. No, it was huge, with very long fingers that seemed to point at the tips. It resembled a skeleton hand. In utter shock and fear, I threw my daughter's clothes on her bed and ran out of the room. When my mother came over after picking up my daughters from school, I had them all look at the mirror to see if they saw what I saw. To my relief and horror, they did. I immediately cleaned the handprint off the mirror, and my family came to the collective decision that the yoga ball needed to be thrown away. We concluded that the only explanation was that a spirit was attached to the yoga ball and followed us to our new home. After getting rid of the yoga ball, we were hopeful that it would be the end of that. But of course, we were wrong. In the haunted apartment story, I mentioned my nephew who was attacked by the spirit in that home when he spent the night. Well, he decided to stay at my new house when he offered to house sit for me while my daughters and I were away on vacation, and he eventually regretted that decision. My daughters and I left early in the morning in an effort to avoid the heavy flow of afternoon traffic. I had given my nephew a key to the house, and he was due to arrive shortly after our departure. When he arrived, all was well as he made himself at home. He spent the day doing normal teenage things, like watching TV, scrolling through his phone, and making himself acquainted with my fully stocked pantry and refrigerator. As the house began to flood with the darkness of the night sky, he decided to go into my daughter's room, where I had set him up with clean bedding to sleep. But as he entered the dark room, he was met with an eerie and unsettling feeling. However, rather than dwell on it, he quickly exited the bedroom and shut the door while trying to shake off the strange feeling. He then returned to the couch, which he claimed as his bed for the next few nights, and turned the TV back on to entertain himself until he could drift off to sleep. About halfway into the movie he was watching, he was overcome with the unsettling feeling that he was being watched. He knew it wasn't possible because he was the only one in the house, but still, he couldn't help but give the room a quick glance over from where he sat on the couch. As he panned the room, peering into the darkness, something caught his eye. Standing by the closed door of my daughter's bedroom was a large figure, as tall as the 8-foot ceiling. The light from the TV illuminated the house well, so there wasn't a doubt in his mind what he saw. The figure was cloaked in a black garment, with a hood that engulfed its head. Peeking from beneath the hood was a pale, sunken face, with only darkness for eyes, and the hands that protruded through the ends of the sleeves of the cloak were large, with long, bony fingers. A few days later, my daughters and I had returned home, and my nephew told me what he experienced. I immediately thought of the skeleton handprint on my daughter's closet mirror in her room. My nephew hadn't known about that, so there was no way he could conjure up a story related to what I found. Fortunately, after that, we had about a 6-month break from any other strange occurrences. I was foolishly hopeful once again that we could start living a normal life. Until one night, when I was awoken with the sudden urge to use the restroom. I had used the restroom before in the middle of the night, and never had anything strange occur, so my guard was definitely down that night. I made my way to the restroom, and everything appeared normal, until I went to exit the bathroom and turn off the light. It was then that I saw myself lying in bed. I could clearly feel my presence in the doorway, with my fingertips teasing the light switch. Yet there I was, clear as day, still lying in bed. I blinked, and no clarity came from it. I wasn't imagining it. But that wasn't the scariest part. There was a large figure standing next to the bed, leaning over my sleeping body. It wasn't what my nephew described. This was something different. It had a crimson red, wrinkly body, with large horns protruding from its head. I stood in fear and shock as I registered what I was looking at was demonic. The last thing I remember was the creature abruptly turned its head and looked at me in the doorway with glowing, yellow eyes. I woke up that morning in my bed with no explanation as to what I experienced. All I knew was that I remembered it vividly, not like a dream, but like a memory. However, for the sake of my sanity, I decided to shake it off as a nightmare, even though I knew deep down that it was more than that. I wish I could say that this was my last experience like that, but unfortunately, not long after, I found myself seeing the exact same black-cloaked skeletal figure that my nephew saw. I had just gotten into my car that was parked in the garage, and I was in the process of backing it out so that my family could all get in. However, before I could even press the garage door opener, I caught the sight of a figure sitting in the middle backseat of my car. To me, the large cloaked figure with the sunken pale face and skeleton hands reminded me of what the angel of death is supposed to look like. I took that as a sign not to drive anywhere that day, and I ran out of my car crying. Fortunately, those nightmares, or whatever they were, never happened again. That all happened nearly a decade ago, and both my nephew and I are still living and breathing. So I don't know whether to believe that what we saw was in fact the angel of death, but whatever it was, I hope to never see it or that demon creature again anytime soon.